All right, so going back to Ray Hagins' video, The Council That Created Jesus Christ, he's about to talk about Arius and Arianism. Well, he's going to talk about Arius. He's not going to talk about Arianism. So let's listen to what he has to say about Arius.
Arius. Everybody say a brother called Arius. A brother called Arius. He had a problem with it. And he made some noise about it.
Yeah, the context is he's saying that he just finished talking about Serapis and Christians worshiping Serapis. So that is what he's saying Arius has a problem with.
They say this, and I wonder how true it is. The only thing necessary for falsehood or evil to triumph is for good men or women to remain silent. Follow what I'm saying? Falsehood was on the loose. A black man named Arius from Libya came forth and said, enough is enough. He began to explain to them, and y'all see what years he lived here, 256 to 336 AD. So guess what? We're talking about the time of the Council of Nicea, 325 AD. Needless to say, you see, he died 11 years later. Okay? I wonder, did he die or was he killed? Arius, yeah, buddy. Arius lived at a time when the church was divided because of the Christological dispute, which he was instrumental in starting. He taught that, and everybody write this down, Christus, C-H-R-I-S-C-U-S. Christus. Christus was also the nickname for Serapis.
All right, that is an outright lie. And we're going to look at a letter written by Arius himself that will prove Ray Hagins a liar. Now, I'm going to give you a little explanation of what Arianism really is. And if you go to any single website, I guarantee you, when they talk about Arianism and Arius, he was a black man. I'll agree with that. He was a black man, which, again, the whole idea of the Council of Nicea just destroys your arguments because y'all try to claim the white man bought Christianity, but he's telling you there's a black man. He doesn't tell you that black man's a Christian, but when you look at the letter that he wrote, you'll see that he's a Christian. So Christianity was alive and well and thriving in Africa way before slavery. Now, Arianism is literally the teachings of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Arianism is the teaching that Jesus Christ is from God. He is divine, but he's not the Father. He's a lesser God, a created God, but he's still a God, but he's not the God. That is exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses teach. And when we look at the Nicene Creed, and when we look at Arius' letter, it'll say exactly just that. I guarantee you, you look at any documents regarding Arius and the Council of Nicea or whatever, you will not find no mention of Serapis nowhere. If you do, it'll be a negative thing, like you shouldn't worship him. You will not. That is not what the Council of Nicea was about. So we're going to let this man finish, and I'm going to let him finish, and I'm going to show you a letter from Arius himself. Okay, so if you haven't watched my video of Ray Hagin talking about Serapis, historically Serapis did exist in the sense of them making up the deity, not as in he actually was a god, but the Romans did make up a god named Serapis, and he did have followers, and he did have images and things like that, like what you see here, and that does look an awful lot like Jesus. However, if you look at all of the Greek Roman gods, they all look the same, or a lot of them look the same. They have a beard and they have long hair. Some of the Greeks have short hair, but in general, they all look the same. this image, or the images of Jesus are completely irrelevant because Christianity existed before there was any images. All right. So anything that the Roman Catholic Church added or whatever, that's something that they chose to add to their belief. That has nothing to do with whether or not Jesus actually existed. All right. So
bearded figure, this is now the image that they use for Jesus today. Okay? Because Serapis, I do in a few minutes show you the comparison. This marble bust of Serapis, which is in where? London Museum. Right now, as I'm talking to you, that's in the London Museum. You were there, did you see it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is in the London Museum. Why haven't we been taught this? Why y'all who grew up in the church all your life? Why weren't you taught this? Why we're not taught it?
see, if you didn't watch his original video or watch my video regarding Serapis, you may miss the context. His argument is that Jesus Christ did not exist, and Serapis, Christians worshipped Serapis, and they tried to change the Serapis into a new being, Jesus Christ. And this is why he's saying, why wasn't I told this? Because his argument is all of this deception has been going on. So that's why he's saying that.
You can't teach it because it will cause the Christian church to shut down. Arius was making noise, man. He was telling everybody, this deity that y'all are worshiping is not deity. He was made by people's hands. Come back here. He was made, he was formed out of metal. How do you tell people who have been worshiping Serapis for over 2.5 centuries that what they've been worshiping ain't real?
All right. So again, you'll see when you read Arius's letter, and you will see that the Council of Nicea had nothing to do with Serapis, and Arius's writings had nothing to do with Serapis. So I can't wait for him to. You notice he doesn't show you any documents. Now, earlier in his Serapis video, he showed a piece of a letter that talked about Christians worshiping Serapis. I highly recommend you watch my video regarding that. You can watch his original video, which is titled here up front. I highly recommend you watch my video, my response, or my expose, because that's what it was, of his teachings about Serapis and the Christians. Now, he doesn't show you anything. There is writings about Arius by other people. There are writings to Arius, and there are writings from Arius. He won't show you any of that. He'll just give you this narrative.
How do you do that? Arius was causing such a problem because people started listening to him. And they started doing their research and finding out the man was telling the truth. We're worshiping an image that was made in honor of Ptolemy the First. And the Son of God, which this is called the Son of God, same as with Jesus, the Europeans took the S-U-N, talk to me black people, and made it the S-O-N.
That is a terrible argument that unfortunately is very widespread on the internet. See, the thing is, that only works in English. The Bible wasn't written in English, and those people, they didn't speak English. Some of them spoke Greek, or most of them spoke Greek, and they spoke Latin, and there was no correlation between the two words like it is in English. For example, in Hebrew, the word for son, as in sun in the sky, is shemesh. And the word son, as in your kid, is ben. There is no correlation in the Hebrew. In the Greek, the word for the son is helios. And the word for your son is your son, your kid, is eos. It's not the same. It's not that same correlation. Those are the language that those things were written in. English didn't even exist. But people use arguments about words in English, and they extrapolate it to, they put it in a place that doesn't belong, and in a time it doesn't belong. That's totally inappropriate. But that's worthy of a video in the future.
Why do you think every picture you see of Jesus, the sun is behind his head?
Oh, I do have to add, though. Constantine, in the letter that Constantine wrote to Arius and Alexander. See, Arius and Alexander, they were the two ones that started the whole beef. And he mentioned that Arius was an African because he tries to paint a picture of the black man standing up to the powers that be. But he doesn't tell you that the person he was beefing against, his mentor, was an Egyptian. Alexander of Alexandria. He was the Pope of the church in Egypt, and Arius studied under him. If you read my section, I'm not sure if I'm gonna put these videos together or not. I don't know. Oh, I'm gonna keep them separate. So the video is gonna be called Ray Hagins and the Council of Nicea or something like that. So look for it on my channel, and I read through the documents of the Council of Nicea, and I read the letter that Constantine wrote to Arius. Right now, Constantine is into sun worship because some of the stuff that he uses to describe Jesus involves sun worship. The images that the Roman Catholic Church added at a point in time does include sun worship. It does include pagan practices. And the letter that I read that Constantine wrote to Arius, he kind of admits that he did add things from. He tried to make like everybody harmonize. So he did add pagan things to Christianity in an effort to appease the pagans. That is not a secret from history. That is not a secret of the church. That is so widely known. Everyone knows that. However, the problem is people take that and they add things to that are not. They include that in every conspiracy theory they have. They include that in, Constantine made Jesus, Constantine changed the Bible, all of this stuff. No, Constantine himself in his letter tells you exactly what he did. And it was not invent Jesus or anything like that. So Jesus Christ existed, Christianity existed, and Constantine came along and added things. And the Roman Catholic Church came along and added things. That is what happened, which is why the Protestants are no longer Roman Catholics. They rebelled against the Catholics because of that. So that's not a secret.
We weren't taught to call it. We were taught to call it a halo. I dare you to go down here to the Catholic Cathedral on Lindell, is it? All you got to do is walk in there and walk up to the altar, and you see exactly what I'm talking about.
Why do you think he said Catholic? He's proven my point. That's a Catholic thing. That's not a Protestant thing. That is why Protestants are no longer Catholics.
They got this big pearly white Jesus on the cross with the sun behind his head, meaning he is a Ra, a son of Ra. And Ra was called, or God was called Ra in ancient Egypt.
Again, totally different languages and whatever. It's just, I'm going to make a video about that. That's a totally different language, totally irrelevant to the Council of Nicea. And I'm waiting for him to finish so I can get to Arius.
Are y'all following what I'm saying? Arius came along and he began to mess up everybody's program. He started telling people, y'all are believing in a statue. And guess what, y'all? Some of y'all do too. Some of y'all got the statue, little tiny one hanging around your neck. Yes, you do. And I mean, I have to put it out again. Why do you keep celebrating that? Why do you keep celebrating death?
He's completely ignorant of Christian theology. But I'm going to stop here so I can get to the letter of Arius, all right? All right, so this is on the website 4th Century Christianity or 4thcentury.com, and it talks about Christianity. It has a whole plethora of documents and things like that of letters from early church fathers. This isn't the only site that you can find it. I said it in all my videos. You find it somewhere else and you read it somewhere else. If you don't trust the site or whatever, you'll find the same thing. So this is a letter from Arius to Eusebius. Eusebius is a church father who took sides with Arius. He kind of flip-flopped back and forth. If you read the different letters that are written between the different people, like Athanasius, Arius, Eusebius, or whatever, you'll see that Eusebius kind of flip-flopped back and forth. But this is the letter that Arius wrote to him. Now listen to what he says. To that most beloved man of God, the faithful and orthodox Eusebius, from Arius, unjustly persecuted by Father Alexander because of the all-conquering truth which you, Eusebius, are also defending. So again, like I said, Arius and Alexander, he calls him by name. That he says who's persecuting him is not the quote-unquote white man. It's the bishop from Egypt that he studied under. And Eusebius is on his side, so he's writing to him. And I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to try to read only the pertinent stuff. Since my father Ammonius is going to Nicodemia, it seemed reasonable and proper to greet you through him, remembering at the same time the innate love and affection which you have for the brothers on account of God and his Christ. Whoa. Because the bishop I'm going to read that again. Since my father Ammonius is going to Nicodemia, it seemed reasonable and proper to greet you through him, remembering at the same time the innate love and affection which you have for the brothers on account of God and his Christ. Wait a minute. I thought Arius didn't believe in Christ. I thought Arius was fighting against the whole teaching of Christ. See, this is what I'm saying, y'all. Stop believing everything people say. Let's get back into this letter. Because the bishop of I don't know how to. Come on. All right, just ignore that. Because the bishop Alexander is severely ravaging and persecuting us and moving against us with every evil. Thus he drives us out of every city like godless men, since we will not agree with his public statements that there was always a God, always a Son. As soon as the Father, so soon the Son existed. When the Father coexists, the Son unbegotten, ever begotten, begotten without begetting. God neither precedes the Son in aspect or in a moment of time. Always God, always Son, the Son being God himself. So now what you hear is what I mentioned earlier. They're arguing over the nature of Jesus and God. Like, what is the relationship between Jesus and the Father? Are they the same God? Is Jesus a lesser God? Does Jesus have the same, for lack of a better term, the same powers as God? The same character as God? So that's what they're arguing over. And Alexander called it. He said, what you're teaching is wrong. You need to believe what I believe. So Alexander saying, you shouldn't be teaching this stuff. It's wrong. And he's persecuting Arius and Eusebius. All right. So now listen to this. All right. So I'm going to start reading here at 3. Since Eusebius, your brother in Caesarea, and Theodotus, and Paulinus, and Athanasius, and Gregory, and Aesius, and all those in the East say that God pre-exists the Son without a beginning, they have been condemned, except for Philogonius, Hellenicus, and Macarius. These names are horrible. And unlearned heretics, some of whom say that the Son was spewed out. Others say he was an emanation. Still others that he was jointly unbegotten. So they're arguing about the nature of Jesus and God. Number 4, listen to this. This is the kicker. We are not able to listen to these kind of impieties, even if the heretics threaten us with 10,000 deaths. But what do we say and think, and what have we previously taught, and what do we presently teach? That the Son is not unbegotten, nor a part of an unbegotten entity in any way, nor from anything in existence, but that he is subsisting in will and intention before time and before the ages, before grace, full of grace and truth, God, the only begotten, unchangeable. He just called Jesus a God, unchangeable. Before he was begotten or created or defined or established, he did not exist, for he was not unbegotten. But we are persecuted because we have said the Son has a beginning, but God has no beginning. We are persecuted because of that and for saying he came from non-being. But we say this since he is not a portion of God, nor of anything in existence. That is why we are persecuted. You know the rest. And that is the end of the letter. He says a farewell. So let me go back to this, because they keep saying begotten, begotten, begotten. They don't want to say born, because the biblical doctrine teaches that Jesus existed before he was born on this earth. So that's why they don't say born, they say begotten, which kind of means like came from. So what he's saying is that we teach that, he said that right here, I don't know if y'all can see that. He says that the Son is not unbegotten. Unbegotten means he always existed. So he is saying the Son did not always exist, nor was he part of any unbegotten entity in any way. So basically he's saying, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe that the Son, Jesus, was created. Now, not the sun in the sky or whatever. He's talking about Jesus here. He says, if you look at number 5, before he was begotten or created or defined or established, he did not exist. So again, this is exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses teach. They believe that Jesus is a God, because Arius even calls him God, if you look right here. But we are persecuted because we have said the Son has a beginning, but God has no beginning. Nope, that's not the right quote. All right, so right here, where he says, but what do we say and think, and what have we previously taught, and what do we presently teach? That the Son is not begotten, nor a part of any unbegotten entity in any way, nor from anything in existence, but that he is subsisting in will and intention before time and before the ages. So Jesus didn't always exist. He was created. He was created before the earth and the planets and all of that stuff. He was created before, when the Bible says in the beginning. Jesus was created before then. This is what Arius is saying. But he says, he calls Jesus full of grace. Full of grace and truth. God, the only begotten, unchangeable. Now, what does that sound like? John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. He was with God in the beginning. So what he's saying is Jesus is God in a sense, but he's not the God. Now, I hope this isn't confusing everybody, but what you see here is this has absolutely, positively nothing to do with Serapis whatsoever. They're arguing about Jesus and God and how much of a God is Jesus. That's what they're arguing about. Now, if you look at the video that I'm going to post about the Council of Nicea and where I read the letter that Constantine wrote to Alexander and Arius, it kind of brings it out a little more. And and Constantine says, look, I'm trying to create order and unity, and you guys are arguing about something that you have no business. All right. So, that's what Constantine had to say about it. Constantine did have a position, and his position was the Trinity position, which is that Jesus always existed, but Jesus is God. He is the Father. It's for non-Christians, it can be confusing. But that's what this conversation was about. Now, what Ray Hagins doesn't tell you in the video also is that Athanasius, now in this letter, Arius says that Athanasius was one of the ones who was condemned. But if you read the letters and the writings of Athanasius ended up fighting against Arius, and he apparently was the loudest voice fighting against Arius, and in terms of the doctrine. So at the Council of Nicea, Arius presented his view. Jesus was a created being. He was a created being, and he didn't always exist, blah, blah, blah. Athanasius was saying that Jesus always existed. Now, he wasn't the only one, but he was like the loudest voice. That's what he's known for in church history, is arguing against the heresy of Arianism. So he held a position of the Trinity, and most of the people there held the position of the Trinity. Arius and a minority held the position of like the Jehovah's Witness type position. Jesus is a God, but a lesser God. That's what they argued about. Now, that explains, now we're going to look at the Nicene Creed. Now, we're at papal encyclicals, and this is basically like letters, papal letters, or letters from church leaders that were written to the churches to be spread around. And it's going to give you the profession of faith of the 318 fathers. And in light of what Arius wrote, in light of what what's the guy's name? Constantine wrote. And if you look at what Eusebius wrote, if you look at what Athanasius wrote, you look at all of what they wrote, they're all arguing about the relationship between Jesus Christ and the Father. And if you look at the profession of faith, you can see how they were dealing with Arius' teachings right here. We believe in one God, the Father, all-powerful, maker of all things, both seen and unseen, and in one Lord, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the only begotten from the Father. That is, from the substance of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, consubstantial, which is like the same substance, consubstantial with the Father, through whom all things came to be, both those in heaven and those in earth, for us humans and for our salvation. He came down and became incarnate, became human, suffered and rose up on the third day and went up into the heavens, and is coming to judge the living and the dead, and in the Holy Spirit. And those who say, there once was when he was not, and before he was begotten, he was not, and that he came from things that were not, or from another hypostasis or substance, affirming that the Son of God is subject to change or alteration. These the Catholic and Apostolic Church anathemizes. So what are they talking about? They're saying, we believe in the Trinity. That's all this fancy talk up here. That's what they're saying. We believe in the Trinity. Those who say that Jesus is not God, but a lesser God, we condemn them. They are teaching a false teaching. Now, you look at the canons. These are, again, just to mention, these are canons from the Council of Nicea. And there's a reason why everybody who talks about the Council of Nicea and conspiracy theory will never, ever, ever show you anything. They will never show you these documents, because these documents prove them freaking wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm not going to read them. I can leave links in the description. You can go on any website and look for documents from the Council of Nicea, and you won't see anything about Serapis. You won't see anything about creating Jesus or creating the Bible or whatever. You will find something about Easter, because apparently there were people that celebrated Easter already, and the Christians celebrated something. I don't know. We had a celebration. So Constantine, he put them together on Easter. So that's why we celebrate the Passover on Easter. He was like, he wanted unity, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that's not something that all Christians agree with. Most Christians don't care. A lot of Christians dislike that. So we don't have to follow that. We follow the Bible, not Constantine. But the whole point is, what Ray Hagins says in this video about Arius is completely wrong. Now, Alexander, his former bishop, fought against Arius, and they both were Africans. Athanasius was the loudest. He's known, according to church history, as like the forefront of the fight in this thing, fighting for the Trinity. He's an African too. But Ray Hagins makes it seem like it's the one black man, Arius, against all of the other white men. Go and look up Athanasius. Look up Alexander from Egypt and look up Athanasius and look up Arius. You'll see that Arius they're all African. So you could say that they're all black or whatever, but they're all Africans. This whole the black man versus the man and Arius versus the world, that is nonsense. That is nonsense. So I'm going to end the video here, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. research the documents from the Council of Nicea. You want to research the letter from Arius to Eusebius. You want to research the letter from Constantine to Arius and Alexander. You want to look at Athanasius's writings on the Council of Nicea. There's all kind of stuff out there. And this stuff is not secret. It's all for the world to see. The problem is y'all just believe whatever people tell y'all and y'all don't research. Y'all don't research. You hear all these conspiracy theories. These people that have these conspiracy theories, they never show you any documents from the Council of Nicea. They just make claims and y'all buy that. Y'all don't make them prove it. So this false stuff just spreads and spreads. Now, he lied about the Council of Nicea itself. He's lying now, later on in the video, about Arius. And I'll probably do another video about more lies that he pulls out. But I just proved it right there. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And the very fact that earlier in the video, he shows you this. He puts this on the screen. So he knows that when you read this, it tells you why they did what they did. Oh, you know what? My bad. I also didn't mention in the letter right here at the bottom. You have the creed, you have the canons, which is like the laws or the church rules. And then at the end of this, you have a letter to the Egyptians. Oh, Africans, right? Africans in the church. So when you read this letter, the letter of the Synod of Nicaea to the Egyptians. So it's the letter from all of the bishops at Nicaea to the Egyptians. And it says, if you read it, it says to the Libyans, basically to all the church. This letter is to go to all the churches. And they tell you why they had the meeting of the Council of Nicea. And they tell you what they were arguing against, which is Arius and his teachings that Jesus is something else. He's not God. This has nothing to do with a statue or anything.